I can still hear the sound of the train brakes screeching that night. Metal on metal, sparks flying like fireworks against the dark. My heart was already racing, not because of the noise, but because I was late. Late to the event my in-laws had been drilling into me for weeks. The gala. Their annual black tie soiree. Their crowning jewel. Their stage to parade wealth and influence. The one night where, in their words, our family name must shine. And there I was, heels clicking on the platform, dress hem brushing against grimy tiles, staring at a child no older than 8, sitting alone on a bench, clutching a stuffed rabbit that looked just as lost as he did. His eyes darted to every passing train, then back to the floor, trembling fingers twisting the rabbit's ear. I froze, just for a second. My phone buzzed in my hand with another message from my husband. "Where are you? They're asking for you." I could almost see my mother-in-law's glare through the screen, sharp enough to cut me in half. But my gaze kept pulling back to the boy. Alone, frightened, invisible to the crowd rushing past him like a river around a stone. In that moment, I felt two worlds tugging at me. The glittering chandeliers and champagne toasts waiting uptown, and the quiet, fragile figure in front of me, who clearly didn't know how to find his way home. A voice inside whispered, "If you walk away now, you'll never forget it." Another voice snapped, "If you stop, you'll never be forgiven." So I took a breath, smoothed the wrinkles from my dress, and stepped toward the boy. And that single choice, that one pivot of my heels on the platform floor, would unravel everything my in-laws thought they knew about me, and everything I thought I knew about family, duty, and the price of doing the right thing. Because when I finally walked into the gala, late, flushed, carrying a story they didn't want to hear, my mother-in-law's words weren't congratulations or thanks. They were, "You ruined our name." The gala had been circled on our family calendar for months, highlighted, underlined, spoken of in hushed tones like a sacred ritual. My husband, Daniel, grew up treating it as the pinnacle of the year, the night when his parents proved to their world, and to themselves, that they were untouchable. For me, though, it was an exam I hadn't studied for. From the first day I married into their family, my mother-in-law had made it clear, appearances meant everything. Every dress had to whisper elegance. Every smile had to conceal. Every story had to impress. "We are not like other people," she told me once, her voice laced with both pride and threat. "When you step out with us, you represent the name, and the name must never be tarnished." So the weeks leading up to the gala were a storm of fittings, rehearsals, and reminders. My dress was chosen by her personal stylist, not too bold, not too plain. I was coached on which board members were attending, which charity donors expected deference, and which rival families were waiting for us to slip. Even Daniel seemed more anxious about me fitting in than about enjoying the night. And I tried. I really did. I memorized names. I practiced polite laughter in the mirror. I even forced myself into heels that turned my ankles into glass. Still, beneath the layers of silk and strategy, a quiet fear pulsed inside me. No matter how much I played their game, I would never be enough for them. The irony? That evening, I left home early, earlier than I needed to. I wanted to prove myself, to arrive on time, to show them I respected their world. But fate has a way of testing our loyalties in the moments we least expect. Because just when I thought I was in control, standing on that train platform rehearsing the smile I'd wear when I walked into the ballroom, I saw him. That boy, the one who didn't belong in the chaos of rushing commuters. And in the span of a heartbeat, all my carefully rehearsed plans, all my mother-in-law's meticulous coaching, began to crumble. The boy looked up at me with wide, glassy eyes, and for a moment, I felt like I was staring at a reflection of myself, small, out of place, invisible in a world that rushed by without pausing to notice. I crouched down, careful not to wrinkle the silk of my gown, and asked softly, "Are you lost?" He nodded once, clutching the stuffed rabbit tighter, its matted fur pressed against his chin. His lips trembled as he whispered, "I can't find my mom." The platform echoed with the metallic voice of the announcer, calling out the next train. People brushed past us, annoyed, curious, but never stopping. I glanced at the clock overhead. 7:42. The gala had already started. My husband's text lit up my phone again. "Where are you?" "They're introducing the family." And that's when the rules, unspoken but sharp as glass, hit me all at once. Rule number 1. In my in-laws' world, Being late is not just impolite, it's unforgivable. Every second away from the spotlight is a mark against you. Rule number 2. Appearances are currency. It doesn't matter if you spent your time saving a life, healing a wound, or helping a stranger. If your dress is wrinkled, if your makeup is smudged, if your story doesn't glitter, you've failed. Rule number 3. Never, ever choose outsiders over the family. Blood first. Image second. Everyone else. Forgettable. And yet, kneeling in front of this child, I realized those rules weren't mine. They were hers. My mother-in-law's. My husband's. Rules of a house that demanded perfection but offered no compassion. So I made my own. I wouldn't leave him. Not here. Not scared. Not alone. I took a breath, smoothed my skirt again, and asked gently, "Can you tell me your mom's name?" The boy blinked, hesitated, then whispered something I could barely hear over the roar of the arriving train. And with that single, fragile word, my night, the night I was supposed to prove myself to my in-laws, shifted onto a path none of us could have predicted. Because helping him wasn't just about missing a gala. It was about breaking rules that had been set in stone long before I ever joined their family. And I was about to learn what it really costs to break them. The boy's name was Ethan, and his voice was so faint I had to lean in to catch it. His small hands twisted the rabbit's ear until I feared it might rip off. "I was with my mom," he murmured, but then the train doors closed. She was inside. I wasn't. My stomach dropped. I pictured the panic his mother must be feeling, trapped on a moving train, realizing her son had been left behind. 100 different scenarios crowded my mind, but only one thing was clear. I had to help him. I glanced at the station map on the wall, my pulse racing. "Okay, Ethan," I said, keeping my voice calm even though my insides were burning. "Do you remember where you were going?" He shook his head. His eyes welled with tears. "She said we were going to Grandma's." That didn't narrow it down. Not in a city like ours. Puzzle number 1. How do you find one mother in a city of millions when all you have is a frightened child and a stuffed rabbit? I tried the obvious, asking a station attendant, but the man just frowned at me like I was an inconvenience, muttering something about lost child protocol before disappearing to make a phone call. Ethan clung to my arm, refusing to let go, as though I was his only lifeline. Puzzle number 2. How long could I delay before the weight of my absence at the gala became catastrophic? My phone buzzed again and again. Daniel, then my sister-in-law, then finally the name I dreaded most, mother-in-law. Each vibration was like a warning bell. I silenced them all. I knelt beside Ethan again. "Do you remember your grandma's name?" He sniffled. "Ruth. Grandma Ruth." It was something. Not much, but a thread to hold on to. I led him to a quieter corner of the station, away from the crush of bodies. My dress was creased now, my heels aching, but none of that mattered. We needed to figure out the next move. Puzzle number 3. How do you keep a child calm when you're barely holding it together yourself? I pulled out my phone, not to answer the barrage of angry texts, but to search. I typed in Ruth plus missing child train station plus hotline. Nothing useful. I tried Grandma Ruth city directory. Thousands of results. My chest tightened. But then Ethan tugged at my sleeve. "She has a garden," he said suddenly, his eyes lighting up for the first time. "Grandma Ruth has lots of flowers. Yellow ones. A clue. A golden thread. But would it be enough to lead us home before everything else fell apart?" Ethan's sudden memory about the yellow flowers kept echoing in my mind. A garden. A detail small enough to be useless, or powerful enough to be everything. I asked, gently, "Do you know what kind of flowers they were?" He furrowed his brow, thinking hard. Then his lips curled into a tiny, shaky smile. "Sunflowers. Grandma Ruth has a garden of sunflowers. They're taller than me." And just like that, something clicked. I remembered passing through a neighborhood once, on the outskirts of the city, where an entire front yard blazed with sunflowers even in late autumn. People called it the Sunflower House. A landmark so unique, even strangers talked about it. Could it be the same place? I pulled up my phone again, fingers trembling as I typed Sunflower Garden House City. A photo popped up in the search results, a bright yellow sea bursting in front of a modest brick home. And beneath it, an address. My heart leapt. This was it. It had to be. But here's where the revelation sank in. To get Ethan home, I'd have to make a choice. The gala was uptown, glittering and impatient. The Sunflower House was across the city, in the opposite direction. If I went to the gala, I might still salvage appearances, even if I was late. But I'd have to abandon Ethan to the bureaucracy of the station staff, to cold protocols and paperwork. If I went with Ethan, I would miss the gala entirely. The very thing my in-laws told me I must not do. And in that moment, I realized the gala wasn't just an event. It was a test. One my in-laws had designed, without even knowing it. Would I choose their world? Cold, perfect, merciless? Or would I choose my own heart? Messy, uncertain, but human? I looked down at Ethan, who was staring at me with those wide, unblinking eyes, holding his stuffed rabbit like it was the only anchor in the world. And I knew I would go with him, even if it meant breaking everything that had been holding me together. Getting to the Sunflower House wasn't as simple as typing the address into my phone. First, there was the matter of transportation. A cab driver took one look at my gown, at Ethan clutching my arm like a shadow, and muttered something about "not my problem" before speeding off. The station staff were still tangled in red tape, insisting on waiting for police involvement. My phone was now a storm of unanswered calls and messages, Daniel's texts growing more desperate, my mother-in-law's more venomous. And yet, I couldn't let go of Ethan's hand. Finally, I dragged us onto a city bus, ignoring the stares from commuters as I tried to balance in heels on the swaying floor. Ethan leaned against me, the rabbit pressed to his face, whispering questions that cut through me. Do you think my mom's scared? Do you think Grandma Ruth is waiting at the house? Do you think she'll be mad I got lost? I answered as best I could, my voice steady even though inside I was unraveling. The bus crawled through traffic, each red light a reminder of what I was sacrificing. 8:15, 8:37, 9:02. The gala was in full swing by now, photographs being taken, names being announced, champagne glasses clinking without me. I could practically see my mother-in-law's jaw tightening, her smile growing thinner each time someone asked, "Where's your daughter-in-law?" And as the minutes dragged, the complications multiplied. Complication 1. My dress was ruined. The hem had caught on a bus seat, tearing just enough to notice. Makeup smeared from the humidity of the ride. I no longer looked like someone meant to stand under chandeliers. I looked like someone who'd run through the city chasing shadows. Complication 2. Ethan started crying quietly into his rabbit, his exhaustion finally breaking through. Passengers shot me looks, some sympathetic, others sharp with suspicion. I could feel their unspoken questions. Who is she? Why is this child with her? Complication 3. Daniel finally called instead of texting. Against my better judgment, I answered. His voice was hushed, tense. Where are you? Do you know what you're doing to us right now? Mom is furious. I found a lost child, I whispered back. I'm helping him get home. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Do you realize how insane that sounds? You're choosing a stranger over this family? Over me. His words were knives. But the weight of Ethan's small hand gripping mine was heavier. When we finally stepped off the bus, the street was dark, quieter, lined with modest homes. And there, at the corner, I saw them, towering stalks of sunflowers, their heads drooping slightly under the weight of night, but still golden, still glowing faintly under the streetlight. We had made it. But the night wasn't over. Because what waited at that sunflower gate was not just relief, it was the storm I'd been running from, finally catching up to me. The Sunflower House was even more striking up close. The gardens stretched wide, stalks bending like sentinels, petals like tiny suns even in the dim streetlight. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened as we approached the gate. "Grandma," he shouted suddenly, his small voice cracking in the night air. Almost immediately, the porch light flicked on, and an older woman stepped out, her hands trembling against the doorframe. She wore a faded cardigan, her hair pulled back, her face drawn with worry that melted the second she saw Ethan. "Ethan!" she cried, rushing down the steps. He tore from my side and ran straight into her arms. The stuffed rabbit tumbled to the ground as he buried his face in her chest. She clutched him like she would never let go again. I stood frozen at the gate, relief flooding me so sharply it almost brought me to my knees. This reunion was worth every wrinkle in my dress, every unanswered call, every ounce of fury waiting for me uptown. But before I could slip away quietly, Grandma Ruth looked up at me. Her eyes glistened as she whispered, "You brought him home." I nodded, suddenly choked with emotion. "He was at the station. He didn't know how to find you." Her lips quivered, torn between gratitude and fear. His mother, she's been calling me nonstop. She thought she'd lost him forever. Thank you. Thank you for not walking away. It should have been a moment of triumph, but my phone buzzed violently again. This time, I answered, because I knew if I didn't, they'd send someone looking. It was my mother-in-law's voice. No preamble, no softness, just ice. Do you have any idea what you've done? I opened my mouth, but she didn't let me speak. Our guests are whispering. Daniel is humiliated. This family's reputation, our name, is being shredded because you decided to play hero to some stranger's brat. Her words crashed over me like a tidal wave. I glanced back at Ethan, still clinging to his grandmother, and something inside me snapped. I had done the right thing. I knew it. But the cost was standing on the other end of the line, demanding I pay in full. So I said, with a steadiness I didn't know I had, if our name can't survive compassion, then maybe it isn't worth as much as you think. There was a sharp inhale on her end. Silence, heavy and poisonous. Then, before she could answer, I ended the call. It was the first time I had ever hung up on her. But as I stood there, staring at the glowing sunflowers and the child safe in his grandmother's arms, I couldn't ignore the truth. I hadn't just defied her. I had declared war. And wars, in families like theirs, never end cleanly. The ride back into the city felt like crossing enemy lines. My heels clicked against the pavement as I walked from the bus stop, the echoes sounding louder in the silence of midnight. The gala would still be going. These things never ended early, but my place in it had already been erased. When I finally arrived at the ballroom, the glow of chandeliers poured through the windows like a world I no longer belonged to. Inside, I spotted Daniel first. His posture was stiff, his jaw tight, his eyes darting like a man trying to calculate how much of me he could salvage. But it was my mother-in-law who found me. She glided across the marble floor in her sequined gown, every movement rehearsed, every glance sharpened to cut. She didn't even wait until I was fully inside. "You ruined our name," she hissed, her hand gripping my arm with surprising strength. "Do you understand? Guests left early. They whispered. They judged. And it's all because you chose to run through this city chasing what? A lost boy." Her words, once, would have gutted me. Tonight, they only echoed. Because I had just seen something she hadn't. A boy reunited with his grandmother. Tears turned into laughter under a porch light. Love stronger than fear. So I stood taller. My dress was torn, my makeup smudged, but for the first time, I wasn't ashamed. "No," I said firmly. "I didn't ruin your name. I saved a child." The silence that followed was deafening. Heads turned. Whispers fluttered through the air like moths around a flame. Daniel's eyes searched mine, pleading for me to take it back, to smooth things over, to play the game. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because here was the revelation, clear as the sunflowers glowing in my memory. A name without compassion is nothing but noise. A reputation without kindness is nothing but glass, fragile, hollow, ready to shatter. And if this family couldn't see that, then maybe I didn't need their name at all. I didn't stay at the gala. After that moment, after my words cut through the air like a knife, I realized there was no applause waiting for me, no forgiveness, no redemption in their eyes. My mother-in-law turned away, her face locked in that brittle smile she wore when the cameras were on. Daniel followed her, torn between loyalty and love, though I already knew which side he would choose. So I walked out, alone. The night air was sharp and cold, but it felt cleaner than the perfume-thick ballroom. I breathed it in like freedom. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel like I was suffocating under expectations I could never meet. As the city hummed around me, I thought of Ethan, of Grandma Ruth clutching him like she'd never let him go again. I thought of the sunflowers, brave enough to grow tall and bright even when the world around them was gray. And I realized, family isn't about names carved into marble or whispered at galas. It's about who holds your hand when you're lost, who waits with the porch light on, who forgives you for being late because you showed up where it mattered most. The in-laws may never forgive me. Daniel may never understand. But I can live with that. Because I know that somewhere in this city, a little boy is sleeping safely tonight. And maybe one day, when he's older, he'll remember that a stranger in a wrinkled gown and broken heels chose him over a ballroom of people who wouldn't have noticed if he disappeared. And that, to me, is worth more than any family name. So here's what I'll leave you with. When life forces you to choose between appearance and compassion, between reputation and humanity, choose compassion. Choose humanity. Choose the lost child on the bench. Because years from now, no one will remember the guest list at some glittering gala, but they will remember the night you stopped, you saw, and you helped.